Picture two Americans. One works 80 hours a week, has 3 college degrees, follows every financial expert's advice, and can barely afford rent. The other works part-time, dropped out of high school, and just bought his second rental property at age 25. What if I told you this isn't about luck? Here's the shocking truth. Everything you've been taught about building wealth is designed to keep you poor. While you're grinding harder and saving pennies, ancient civilizations were using a systematic approach that transforms any poor person into a wealthy one in just 6 months. Egyptian scribes, Persian engineers, and Roman generals all followed the same 7-step blueprint, and it's been deliberately removed from modern education to keep you trapped in financial slavery. In this video, you're getting the complete 6-month roadmap that's been creating fortunes since before the pyramids existed. No complex strategies, no huge capital required, just the same principles that built empires and can rebuild your bank account. If you're ready to stop working harder and start working like the ancients, comment wealth formula right now. But that's just the obvious part. What I'm about to reveal is what separates people who escape poverty forever from those who stay trapped in the system. 1. Why tracking every coin? Picture this. It's payday. You've got $3,000 hitting your account, and you feel rich for exactly 72 hours. Then reality hits. Somehow that money vanished into thin air, and you're back to checking your balance before buying coffee. Sound familiar? You're living the same financial nightmare that destroyed ancient kingdoms. Let me tell you about 2 men who managed Egypt's royal treasury 4,000 years ago. The first overseer, careless Khemweset, was appointed to manage Pharaoh's grain reserves. He was confident, experienced, and trusted by the royal court. When farmers delivered wheat, Khemweset would wave them into the storehouses without detailed records. "We're rich," he'd think. "A few missing bushels won't matter." He'd estimate quantities, round numbers, and trust his memory for transactions. Within 2 seasons, something terrifying happened. The treasury looked full, but when they actually counted, massive amounts were missing. Grain had disappeared through 1,000 tiny leaks. Workers taking extra portions, merchants delivering less than promised, storage areas with no accountability. Khemweset was stripped of his position and exiled. The second overseer, meticulous Amenhotep, took a completely different approach. He obsessively recorded every grain that entered or left the treasury. Each delivery was weighed, documented, and verified. Every withdrawal required written authorization. Workers knew their portions were tracked. Merchants knew shortages would be caught immediately. Amenhotep's treasury not only stayed full, it grew. When you measure everything, waste disappears like shadows in sunlight. The same principle applies to your money today. The average American has no idea where 30% of their income actually goes. It disappears through invisible leaks. Subscription services they forgot about, impulse purchases, gradual lifestyle inflation. But here's the magic. The moment you start tracking every dollar, like Amenhotep tracked every grain, something remarkable happens. Your spending behavior changes instantly. Research shows people who track expenses reduce wasteful spending by 15 to 20% within the first month, without even trying. That $4 coffee becomes a conscious choice instead of autopilot spending. You notice you're paying for 3 streaming services you barely use. You realize you're spending $200 monthly on food delivery when you have a fully stocked kitchen. Start today. Use your phone, a notebook, even receipts stuffed in a jar. Track every dollar for 30 days like your financial life depends on it, because it does. Remember Amenhotep's sacred rule. What gets measured, gets managed. Your path to wealth starts with knowing exactly where every coin goes. 2. Master time. Here's the brutal truth about why you're still broke. You're trying to build wealth the same way most people try to get in shape, with vague goals, no deadlines, and zero accountability. Meanwhile, ancient architects were using a time control system so powerful it built structures that still stand 4,000 years later. Let me tell you about two master builders who faced the impossible task of constructing the Great Pyramid. The first architect, impatient Imhotep, looked at the massive project and felt overwhelmed. 20 years to build this, he thought. That's forever. He started with grand ambitions but no clear phases. Some days he'd focus on the foundation, other days he'd worry about the capstone. Workers received conflicting instructions. Progress was chaotic and immeasurable. After 2 years of spinning wheels, Pharaoh fired him for lack of progress. The second architect, strategic Seneb, took a completely different approach. He divided the 20-year project into precise 90-day phases. Phase 1, clear and level the site. Phase 2, quarry and transport foundation stones. Phase 3, lay the first level. Each phase had specific, measurable goals. Every morning, Seneb would review yesterday's progress and set today's targets. Every evening, he'd measure results against goals. At the end of each 90-day phase, workers received rewards and recognition before starting the next mission with renewed energy. The psychological brilliance? 20 years felt impossible, but 90 days felt manageable. Each completed phase built momentum and confidence for the next. This is exactly why you haven't built wealth yet. You think, someday I'll be rich, instead of, in 90 days I'll have $5,000 saved, 1 new income skill, and 0 credit card debt. Your brain can't process build wealth. It's too vague, too distant, too overwhelming. But your brain can absolutely handle save $300 this month, learn email marketing, and cancel 3 subscriptions. Here's your pyramid building formula. Grab a notebook tonight and write 3 crystal clear 90-day goals. Be specific. Exact dollar amount you'll save, 1 skill you'll master, 1 money-wasting habit you'll eliminate. Post these goals where you'll see them every morning. Read them aloud so your brain hears the commitment. Track progress every single night with a simple check mark or number. When day 90 arrives, celebrate your wins before setting the next 90-day mission. This turns 6 months from an overwhelming marathon into 2 exciting sprints. Remember Seneb's wisdom. Massive projects aren't built through wishful thinking. They're constructed through disciplined phases. Your wealth pyramid starts with controlling the next 90 days. 3. Making money work night shifts. Here's a question that's going to make your stomach drop. While you're sleeping tonight, is your money working to make you richer, or is it sitting there getting poorer? Because every night you don't invest, inflation is quietly stealing your purchasing power, and you don't even know it. Let me tell you about 2 Mesopotamian men who faced this exact choice 5,000 years ago. The first man, fearful farmer Gilgad, worked sunrise to sunset growing barley. At harvest time, he'd convert his profits into silver coins and bury them in clay jars around his property. "Better safe than sorry," he'd tell his wife. "At least I know where my money is." Year after year, Gilgad would dig up his jars, count his coins, and feel secure seeing the same amount. The second man, shrewd merchant Shamash, took his harvest profits and did something that seemed crazy to his neighbors. He lent money to other farmers, traders, and craftsmen at reasonable interest rates. When people called him risky, Shamash would smile and say, "My money works harder than I do." Here's what happened over 10 years. Gilgad still had his buried coins, but bread now cost twice as much. His safe money could buy half what it used to. Meanwhile, Shamash's lending business had grown exponentially. His profits generated profits. He owned pieces of successful farms, trading expeditions, and craft workshops. His money had children, and those children had children. This exact same scenario is playing out in America today. Your savings account paying 0.01% interest? That's Gilgad's buried jar. Meanwhile, the stock market has averaged 10% annual returns for the past century. Here's the math that will shock you. $100 monthly investments at 10% annual returns becomes $200,000 in 30 years. The same $100 monthly in a savings account becomes about $36,000, and inflation makes it worth even less. But investing is risky, you say? You know what's actually risky? Guaranteed loss of purchasing power through inflation while you earn nothing. Shamash understood something most Americans never learn. Small amounts invested consistently beat large amounts invested sporadically. Don't wait until you have thousands to invest. Start with the price of a pizza delivery. Download a micro-investing app tonight. Set up automatic $25 weekly transfers. Buy broad market index funds that own pieces of hundreds of companies. When your first dividend arrives, even if it's just $2, smile and reinvest it. Your money should work night shifts while you sleep, just like Shamash's loans worked for him 5,000 years ago. Stop burying your future in savings account jars. 4. Why skills stack into fortune. Here's why you're stuck earning the same paycheck year after year. You're selling your time like a basic laborer instead of packaging your skills like a master craftsman. The difference between these two approaches separated the wealthy from the working class in ancient Rome, and it's doing the same thing in modern America. Let me tell you about two blacksmiths in 150 AD Rome who started with identical skills and identical shops. The first blacksmith, Basic Marcus, was competent and hardworking. Customers would bring him iron to forge into horseshoes, nails, or simple tools. Marcus would do exactly what was requested. Nothing more, nothing less. He charged fair prices, worked long hours, and earned enough to get by. But after 10 years, Marcus was still just getting by, competing with dozens of other blacksmiths who offered the exact same services. The second blacksmith, Strategic Lucius, started with the same skills but thought differently about value creation. When customers brought iron for horseshoes, Lucius would say, "For a small additional fee, I can add special grips that prevent slipping on wet stones." When making nails, he'd offer waterproofing treatments that lasted twice as long. When forging tools, he'd include leather wrapping and sharpening service. But here's where Lucius got brilliant. He started combining services. A farmer needing horseshoes would leave with shoes, a maintenance schedule, and a backup set for emergencies. A carpenter wanting nails would get nails, installation consultation, and a bulk discount on future orders. Within 5 years, Lucius wasn't just a blacksmith. He was a complete metalwork solution provider. He charged premium prices because customers saved time, got better results, and avoided multiple trips to different craftsmen. The same principle applies to your career today. Instead of just doing your job, become the person who solves problems around your job. If you're a cashier, learn basic inventory management and offer to track popular items. If you're a driver, learn basic vehicle maintenance and offer car care tips. If you're in customer service, learn basic sales techniques and help increase revenue per customer. These small additions to your core skill don't require years of training. They require weeks of focused learning. But they transform you from a replaceable worker into an irreplaceable problem solver. Customers pay premium prices for convenience, expertise, and bundled solutions. When you stack complementary skills around your main talent, you create unique value that competitors can't easily match. Start tonight. Identify one small skill that would make you more valuable to your current customers or employer. Learn it, test it, and watch your income potential multiply. 5. How 10 minutes builds wealth. Here's why you're still financially ignorant after years of wanting to learn about money. You're waiting for the perfect moment to study, while wealth is built through imperfect moments accumulated over time. Ancient Greek philosophers discovered this secret 2,500 years ago, and it still separates the financially educated from the financially clueless today. Let me tell you about two students who sought wisdom from the great philosopher Aristotle. The first student, perfectionist Philippos, had grand plans for his education. "Master," he said, "I want to understand everything about rhetoric, mathematics, ethics, and politics. But I need to wait until I have proper scrolls, a quiet study space, and at least 3 uninterrupted hours daily. When conditions are perfect, I'll become the greatest scholar in Athens." Aristotle nodded and said, "Very well. Return when you're ready." The second student, persistent Pythagoras, approached differently. "Master, I can only spare 10 minutes each morning before my work in the marketplace. Is that enough?" Aristotle smiled and said, 10 focused minutes beats 10 distracted hours. Begin tomorrow. Here's what happened over the next year. Philippos kept waiting for perfect conditions that never came. His job got busier, his living situation remained noisy, and he never found those mythical 3-hour blocks. A year later, he knew exactly the same amount about philosophy as when he started. Pythagoras, meanwhile, spent just 10 minutes each morning learning one concept. Monday, basic logic principles. Tuesday, persuasion techniques. Wednesday, mathematical ratios. Thursday, ethical decision-making. Friday, political strategy. He'd immediately test each lesson in his marketplace interactions that same day. After 12 months, Pythagoras had accumulated over 60 hours of focused learning and practical application. More importantly, he'd applied 365 small lessons to real situations. His business relationships improved, his negotiation skills sharpened, and his income doubled because customers saw him as wise and trustworthy. Philippos was still waiting to start learning. Pythagoras was already earning from his knowledge. This same pattern destroys modern wealth building. You think you need weekend seminars, evening classes, or month-long courses to learn financial skills. Wrong. You need 10 minutes daily with immediate application. Listen to one podcast about investing during your morning coffee. Read one article about tax strategies during lunch. Watch one short video about budgeting before bed. Then test one idea from each lesson within 48 hours. Knowledge that sits unused becomes worthless. Knowledge applied immediately becomes income. After 6 months of 10-minute daily learning sessions, you'll have more practical financial education than most college graduates. Remember Aristotle's wisdom. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence is not an act, but a habit. Your wealth education starts with tomorrow's 10 minutes. 6. Why measuring outcomes beats measuring effort. Here's why you're working harder but not getting richer. You're measuring the wrong things. You track how many hours you worked, how busy you were, how much effort you put in, while your bank account stays stubbornly empty. Ancient Roman generals figured out this fatal flaw 2,000 years ago, and their solution built the greatest empire in history. Let me tell you about 2 Roman officers tasked with conquering Gaul. The first officer, hardworking Maximus, was incredibly dedicated. Every morning, he'd tell his commander about his busy schedule. "Sir, yesterday I marched my men 15 miles, held 3 strategy meetings, inspected equipment for 2 hours, and trained troops until sunset. I worked 14 hours straight." His daily reports were filled with activities, effort, and impressive-sounding tasks. The second officer, results-focused Aurelius, gave completely different reports. "Sir, yesterday we captured 2 enemy outposts, secured 3 supply routes, and recruited 50 local allies. Our controlled territory expanded by 12 square miles." His reports contained no mention of hours worked or effort expended, only measurable outcomes. After 6 months, guess which officer got promoted? Maximus was still talking about how hard he worked while controlling the same territory as when he started. Aurelius had systematically expanded Roman control across the entire region because he measured what actually mattered. This same pattern destroys modern wealth building. People brag about working 60-hour weeks, but never track their actual income growth. They feel productive because they're busy, but their financial situation stays the same year after year. Wealthy people think like Aurelius. They pick one key number that directly connects to income. Sales calls completed, clients served, products shipped, articles written, properties managed. Every morning, they write down yesterday's number and set today's target. If that number flatlines for 2 days, they immediately change their method. No excuses, no "but I worked really hard" stories. Just rapid adjustment toward what actually produces results. Here's your Roman general formula. Identify the one activity in your work that most directly creates income. If you're in sales, it's closed deals. If you're a freelancer, it's completed projects. If you're building a side business, it's paying customers acquired. Track that number every single day. Post a simple chart where you'll see it. When the line goes up, celebrate. When it goes down, change your approach immediately. Remember Aurelius's wisdom. The empire rewards those who capture territory, not those who march in circles. Your financial empire grows through measurable results, not unmeasurable effort. Stop counting hours. Start counting outcomes. Your bank account will thank you. 7. Building income that flows while you sleep. Here's the difference between people who stay broke and people who get rich. Broke people trade time for money until they die, while wealthy people build systems that generate money while they sleep. This principle was mastered by ancient Persian engineers 20,500 years ago, and it's still creating millionaires today. Let me tell you about two men in ancient Persia who needed water for their villages. The first man, daily worker Darius, saw his community's water shortage and immediately got to work. Every morning before sunrise, he'd walk 2 miles to the distant spring, fill heavy buckets, and carry them back to sell to his neighbors. He worked from dawn to dusk, 7 days a week. Darius made good money. His arms grew strong, his back grew sore, and his income was steady as long as he kept carrying buckets. The second man, strategic Cyrus, looked at the same water shortage and thought differently. Instead of carrying buckets, he spent 6 months studying engineering, gathering materials, and building an aqueduct system. For half a year, Cyrus earned nothing while Darius was making daily profits and calling him crazy for wasting time on impossible dreams. But here's what happened next. Cyrus's aqueduct was completed, and fresh water began flowing directly into the village, 24 hours a day. Villagers paid monthly fees for unlimited access. Meanwhile, Darius was still walking 4 miles daily, carrying buckets, earning the same amount as year 1. 5 years later, Darius was exhausted, aging rapidly, and his income hadn't grown at all. Cyrus was traveling the region, building aqueducts for other villages, earning passive income from multiple water systems while never carrying another bucket. This exact principle separates financial freedom from financial slavery today. Most Americans are Darius, trading hours for dollars with no escape plan. But you can become Cyrus by building systems that generate income without your constant presence. Start simple. Rent out a spare room on Airbnb, create a course teaching something you already know, license photos from your phone to stock photo sites, or place a vending machine in a high-traffic location. These aren't get-rich-quick schemes. They're income aqueducts. The goal isn't to replace your job immediately. The goal is to have one bill covered by passive income within 120 days. When your electricity bill gets paid by rental income, your job can focus on bigger goals. Remember Cyrus's wisdom. Temporary pain of building systems creates permanent gain of financial freedom. Stop carrying financial buckets. Start building income pipelines that flow while you sleep. Look, here's the bottom line. Egyptian scribes tracked every grain, Persian engineers built lasting systems, and Roman generals measured results over effort. These aren't just ancient stories. They're your 6-month blueprint to financial freedom. You now have the exact formula. Track like scribes, plan like architects, invest like merchants, stack skills like craftsmen, learn like scholars, measure like generals, and build pipelines like engineers. These 7 steps have been creating wealth for 6,000 years. The question isn't whether this works, it's whether you'll actually do it. Pick one step and start tonight. Write those 3 90-day goals. Download that tracking app. Set up that first investment. Learn that first skill. Which ancient strategy will you implement first? Drop it in the comments. Track, invest, learn, measure, build, plan, or skills. If this video gave you a clear path forward, smash that subscribe button and notification bell so you never miss wealth-building strategies like these. Remember, 6 months will pass whether you act or dream. Your ancestors knew the path to prosperity. Now you do too. The only question is, will you walk it?